Welcome to the Answers for Elders radio show. Meet the trusted experts who will give you straight answers and will help guide you on the path of later life care. Now, here's your host, founder, caregiver, and CEO, Suzanne Newman.
And welcome, everyone, to Answers for Elders Radio Network. And we are here this summer celebrating an amazing program. And as we go through the 8 foundational principles of wellness called the Vitality Revolution, we have been covering the different aspects of senior and caregiver wellness. And this month, the month of July, we've been talking about occupational and social wellness. Now, what does that mean? If you're a senior and retired, what is occupational wellness? It means a sense of purpose. It means something that you feel like you're a part of something, that you have a mission, you have a reason to wake up every morning and feel fulfilled in what you do rather than who you are. And I think this is a part where we can feel a sense of accomplishment. We can feel a sense of, completion, things like that in our life. And of course, social wellness is connection. It's the ability to connect, to feel like you're a part of a community, that what you're doing contributes, makes a difference. And so these two elements are very closely related. And we have talked a lot about occupational wellness with seniors, with caregivers, but now we're going to talk about seniors with dementia. And I am it's, as you know, all of our listeners, you all know how passionate I am about those with Alzheimer's and dementia. It's kind of a very important area that we focus on. And I am very honored today to introduce all of you to Michelle Cornelius. She is the Vice President of Memory Care for Cogir Senior Living. And Michelle, thank you so much for being with us on Answers for Elders. Welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be able to be here today.
Michelle, I like I told you when you came on the call, your reputation precedes you. You are an amazing individual. And of course, you're joining us from Phoenix, where we actually broadcast down there. We have our show. And so welcome to all of you in the Phoenix area. And Michelle, tell us a little bit about how you got to memory care, a little bit about your background first.
Sure. Well, I actually fell into memory care, and I hear this from a lot of people. It was by accident. Mm-hmm. I went into social work to work with high school kids, which I have only done for a very brief period in my career. But at the time I was living in California, working downtown San Francisco with heroin addicts, and decided that wasn't for me.
Oh my gosh.
And so I found a job just in a SNF as a social worker there, doing a lot of paperwork. And one day the ombudsman came in and said, we have a community that is hiring for a memory care director. They're taking one of their 4 wings and transforming it into a dementia unit in the SNF. And I told the ED there that he has to interview you. They're ready to offer the job to somebody. They've already done second interviews, but I told him he has to interview you before he's allowed to give an offer out. Mm-hmm. And I knew very little about dementia except some personal experience when I was young. I was in junior high, and I remember a great grandfather having dementias and the struggle that my grandmother went through. And my grandmother's, just as a family caregiver, she said, if this happens to me, just shoot me. I don't want to ever have to go through what my dad's going through. Yeah. So that was my only real experience with dementia. But I called my mom, who had just finished up her master's degree in speech pathology. And she overnighted me a book about dementia care, because this is pre-internet days, or pre-personal internet days. And I read the book the next night, and I interviewed and got the job.
That is amazing.
It's amazing.
And how long ago was this?
This was almost 25 years ago, about 25 years.
Oh my goodness. And you never left since.
And I haven't. I really think what the question that got me the job, that still is very real in this field today, was about reality orientation. Yeah. At the time, we thought it was important to reality orient people. They had to know what day of the week it was. They had to know where they lived and know if their spouse was alive. Mm-hmm. And the book had said, no, we don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And I really think that is the question. that answer got me the job. And it's still something that every day in my line of work, I'm talking with families and staff about, that we can live in their reality.
Yeah. And, that's the thing that I think is really important about when dealing with seniors and those loved ones who have dementia and Alzheimer's. And obviously, we're talking about occupational wellness and having a sense of purpose. How do you integrate in, this approach? And what are the challenges with someone with Alzheimer's?
Yeah. It's really important that we get a good history from folks and from family members ahead of time. Not just after. Families are busy filling out medical work, and they're busy doing, financial paperwork. And it's really important to us that we also get a good social history. I do tests at home because they're necessary, but I don't find them fulfilling. I empty the dishwasher because it has to be emptied. I wipe the counters because they have to be wiped. But what fulfills me is being able to plan a meal and cook it and entertain my guests. So we have to always consider, if we're looking at these histories, are the things that gave this person fulfillment prior to needing memory care, things that they can still do? And if not, how do we build that into our programming?
Now, how
do we get to that point?
Yeah. So do you do that? You look at, let's say, for example, this person was a professor and they were a teacher and they're passionate. How do you integrate that with someone with Alzheimer's? So could you give me an example?
Sure. So for example, we had one guy who used to teach line dancing classes. And so we scheduled him on the calendar to teach line dancing. He didn't remember what he had taught the previous week. The residents didn't remember what he had taught the previous week. He's taught the same 2 measures of the song of the chorus every week. And
I love that.
And the residents loved it. And it didn't matter that they were relearning something that they had already done. I had another woman who did that with crocheting. She was the head, and it actually had her name on it. So it was crocheting with the resident's name on the calendar. She didn't remember how to turn her rows anymore. So she would do that initial row. When she'd get to the end, she'd stop and we'd say, okay, that's our time for this week. Next week, we're going to turn and we're going to start over.
And we're going to do it over again.
And we just did it every week. Yep. She taught us the same thing. And the residents were learning. They were the expert in their field. And those are some ways you can incorporate it into activities. But it's not just about that kind of programming. It's the guy who loves to go to the hobby or Home Depot, going on with our maintenance staff, working on projects and getting their input for things.
So you talking about your maintenance department, obviously your staff has to be so in tune to what brings joy to your people. How do you train them and how do you work with them?
Yeah, because it is so individualized. We have to remember that we are institutional settings, no matter how we try to get around it. But imagining trying to plan for a family of 10. Well, now we're trying to plan for even more residents than that. And so it takes the village. It takes all of us being on the same page. And it does take the personal connection of the maintenance man who is doing these projects to not only involve the resident, but get their buy-in. So they're saying, hey, Mr. Padilla, I'm making a garden bed. You always love to garden. What kinds of things do we need for this? What supplies do we need? And involving the resident in the planning process for it, if that's what the resident's passion is.
Yeah.
I don't have the skill set for that. The activities person may not have the skill set for that. So we have to have everybody with their own passions involved. And this also means we do a lot of staff training. We find out from the staff before they're hired, what are the things that you love to do?
Oh, I love that.
And then we can match it up with the residents thing too. A lot of places, and we do the same. We ask what are their favorite drinks from Starbucks and, what are their favorite restaurants. So if we want to do rewards, we can get gift cards. But
I love that.
We look at oh, you love to bowl. We don't have a bowling set. Let's get a bowling set so that you can bowl with the residents. Oh, you love to do artwork. What medium do you like? Here's our supplies. And here are the residents who like to do the artwork as well. So that we can really match people up.
I am looking forward to talking about occupational and social wellness. And everyone, in the meantime, Michelle, how do we reach you with Cogir Senior Living?
Sure. The best way is to go onto the Cogir site, cogirseniorliving.com. And you can reach any of our communities that way. Personally, the best way to reach me is email mcornelius, Cornelius, at Cogir USA. That's COGIR.com.
Fabulous. And everyone, Michelle and I, we're going to be right back right after this. We at Answers for Elders thank you for listening. Did you know that you can discover hundreds of podcasts in our library on senior care? So visit our website and discover our decision guides that will help you also navigate decision making. Find us at answersforelders.com.